What's up guys, it's Mike, back with yet another iPhone 6 video. Hopefully you're not getting tired of these yet. Today's is going to be short and sweet. We're going to take a look at the outside and the exterior design of the new iPhone 6 and how it kind of compares in size to a couple other phones that I happen to have here. So I thought first we'd do a quick walk around to the outside of the phone and talk about the new design language that Apple has come up with for this year's phone. This is true for both the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus. Obviously the only difference is in size. So on the front, typical iPhone look and feel. You have your Touch ID home button down here, speakers at the top. The FaceTime HD camera has been moved to the left of the speaker grill instead of above it, like on the 5 and 5S. Nothing new to report here. On the right side is where it gets a little bit different. Instead of having the power button on the top, as it has been since 2007 with the original iPhone and forward, the power button's been relocated to the right-hand spine. It is more towards the top, and this is very similar to what we've seen with a multitude of Android phones for years now. So when you're holding it, because the phone is taller, it's a lot more difficult to reach up here to the top portion of the phone. So the power button finds itself in a pretty ergonomical location to be able to quickly turn it on and off. A lot of people have complained that it's taken some getting used to. I think it makes natural sense there, so you'll get used to that. On the left-hand side of the phone, it's the same story as all previous generations. Volume down, volume up. The buttons are a little different. They're elongated, much more like the iPod Touch. And then, of course, your silent mute switch at the top. On the bottom, very similar story. You've got your 3.5mm headphone jack, your primary microphone, the Lightning charge and sync port, and then a single speaker. On the back, we have a new design that's somewhat similar to the iPhone 5 and 5S. You have the middle portion here, and then two panels above and below that are kind of pronounced with these antenna breaks because the phone is made completely out of aluminum. Here at the top is where they have the new NFC chip, which will enable Apple Pay, the wireless payment system. And then, of course, 8-megapixel camera, a second microphone for noise canceling, and the True Tone LED flash. I'm not, as for the camera, I'm not a big fan of the design that allows it to stick out from the back of the phone. It makes it so when you set the phone down, you get a little bit of wobbling if you press in the opposite corners. I also worry that that lens is going to get scratched over time. The obvious solution is to put a case on it, and most people do. And if you're one of those, it shouldn't be an issue. So that's the outside of the phone. One thing that I've noticed with this new design, there's no hard edges anywhere. Everything is smooth. From the location where the display glass, the cover glass, meets the aluminum, the new display glass is rounded. So there's no hard edges there, and clearly there's none anywhere else. And it makes it a bit slippery. It makes it a little bit harder to hold in the hand. I found that with other phones and previous iPhones, those harder edges give your hand a little bit more to grip. This has a tendency to just kind of slide, like so. I worry about that a little bit. Most times I'm holding the phone one-handed, it's like this, you know, like most people, pinky underneath the bottom, and I do most of my work with my right thumb. But if you need to shimmy up to the top of the screen like this, you know, to get to the notification bar, or the location that Apple places the back button. So if you're, let's say you're in your messages, and you want to go here, to get back out, you gotta reach all the way up top. And if your hand location is down here, I can't reach that. So it requires you to kind of shimmy up to the top to hit that back button. Again, like with the camera protruding lens issue, a case is going to solve that. It'll give you some more grip. Apple's cases that they have for the iPhone 6 are much more grippy. One of them's made out of leather, and one's a silicone polymer that gives you some more grip. Just something to point out, because I can see a lot of these getting dropped. The phone that I find that iPhone 6 compares most closely to is the Samsung Galaxy S4. The sizes are nearly identical in almost every way. So if we line the two of these up side by side, you can see that the thickness is a little bit different. iPhone 6 is thinner, but that starts to beg the question, how thin is too thin? And people who have the iPhone 6 Plus are experiencing a little bit of that with bend gate and bend gazi right now, with the larger iPhone bending a little bit here when they put it in their pocket. That's another story. On the width, you'll see that iPhone 6 is just a hair narrower. And then on the height, you'll see that iPhone 6 is just a hair taller. So if you want a good idea, you want to get a good feel for what iPhone 6 feels like in the hand, pick up a Galaxy S4. This is pretty similar. One other thing that I wanted to point out while I have it next to me is the Moto X, the 2013 Moto X. I love this phone. This is my favorite Android phone probably ever. And it, interestingly enough, packs a 4.7-inch display as well. But when you look at the size difference between these two, it is noticeable. iPhone 6 is much taller. When you look at the width, iPhone 6 is noticeably wider. You know, I wouldn't say that's nearly as big of a deal, but it is wider. And both of these devices have 4.7-inch displays. So a lot of that is due to the chin and the forehead bezels of iPhone 6, because they have to fit the home button here, and I'm not entirely sure why the forehead bezel isn't or couldn't be reduced a little bit. Again, that gets into why the power button is on the right side, and it gets into, you know, battery size because it's so thin. Maybe they opted to make it taller so they could fit, you know, a adequate battery inside. It's hard saying, but just interesting to note that two phones with 4.7-inch displays are significantly different. So the size comparison was really the last thing that I wanted to do today, but I think we will add one more thing, and that's to talk about the new Retina HD display. It comes in at 1334 by 750 pixels, which for those of you keeping track is just a little over 720p. So it's certainly not a full HD display. Nevertheless, DisplayMate calls this the best LCD of any smart device ever made. And I tend to agree. I don't need a device that has a full HD display. It's sharp, the colors are vivid, they're realistic and lifelike. I found that on other devices, namely the Samsung devices, they're oversaturated by quite a bit, to the point that it's not as realistic, and you know you're looking at something that's blown out to a degree. Contrast rates are also better, so that's the difference between lights and darks, blacks and whites. That's also noticeably improved on this new Retina HD display. And they've also rounded the corners. So where the cover glass meets the aluminum body, these edges all the way around have this tapered, rounded feel to them, so your finger can easily slide for on-screen gestures. All that is kind of null and void, I suppose, if you use a case. You'll have a little bit more difficult time accessing that. Nevertheless, it's a brilliant display. It's absolutely fantastic. It is noticeably improved over previous iPhones, and I'm quite pleased. So that's it for today. That's a good quick rundown on the outside of the device, what you can expect, what it looks like, what it feels like, and a couple of other phones that you could compare sizes with. If you've liked this video, feel free to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. I'm on a video spree right now for iPhone 6, and I have several more things to cover, so if you're interested, you know what to do. That's it for this video. See you next time.